There's a lot of very important moments in Naruto, and we've covered a good amount of them when we've talked about the first and the second Great Shinobi World Wars. But the problem with both of those wars is that we don't know that much. And sure, we can make assumptions and educated guesses about what happens in these wars and how they ended and the effects they have on the greater Naruto timeline. But there is one war out of these three wars that we actually know a good amount of information about, and that's the subject of today's video, the third Great Shinobi World War. Fortunately for us, a myriad of flashbacks, Kakashi Gaiden, and just the Naruto manga itself do a pretty good job of fleshing out what the third Great Shinobi World War looked like. And what it looked like was all-out war between all five major nations, leading to the most loss of life in any war ever. But before we get into all of that, guys, please, from me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. If I look different, I opened the window next to my computer for the first time in like 3 months because it's spring. But then again, I live in Los Angeles, so it's always kind of spring. So the third Great Shinobi World War, how did it start? Who was involved? What did it cause? All good questions. Well, let's start this video in the way that we usually tend to start these videos and start at the beginning. What caused the third Great Shinobi World War? And while there's no clear Franz Ferdinand moment, like with all the wars, we know that the war started because the power of the five major nations was crumbling. Essentially, smaller villages had begun to create their own shinobi systems, and therefore didn't need to hire major nations for shinobi work like they needed to in the past. Not to mention, in the previous two wars, most of the major nations had lost a large amount of their fighting men and women. And while Tsunade had revolutionized how shinobi team works and also medical ninjutsu, they still lost a lot of people in the Second Great War. So because of the fact that the smaller nations began to have their own fighting force, they began to fight the larger nations along their borders. And these obviously started out as small skirmishes, but eventually scaled up to full-scale battles, until eventually it became all-out war. And like I said before, this was the bloodiest and most conflict-ridden war in shinobi history, and every single nation got dragged into it. Those nations without a significant amount of shinobi in war potential were destroyed. Even Konoha, arguably the strongest village in all of the shinobi world, saw major losses, both physically and spiritually. If you've seen my You Know Nothing About Tobirama video, you'll know that the village Konoha was founded to make sure that children would never die on the battlefield again. You'll know that Tobirama created the Ninja Academy to keep children out of wars, and also created the tuning exams to make sure that children would be old enough and ready enough for war. And yet, the third Great Shinobi World War saw Genin being sent to the front lines, something that morally flew directly in the face of Konoha's founding. And these children obviously lost their life because they were fresh out of the academy. I'm telling you, if Tobirama had come back to life during the third Great Shinobi World War, he would have killed Hiruzen. And he could have too. But Tobirama and Hiruzen weren't the people fighting in this war. No, it was everybody else. We know for a fact every major nation was involved in this war. And we know for a fact at least 3 of the major villages were fighting Konoha. The only one we're not 100% sure was fighting Konoha was the village hidden in the sand. But the most major and heavily focused on conflict of the third Great Shinobi World War is the Hidden Stone versus Konoha. Essentially, the Hidden Stone sent 1,000 shinobi into the Hidden Grass. And I don't know how familiar you guys are with Naruto geography, but the Hidden Grass is a small village directly between the Hidden Stone and the Hidden Fire. Land of Fire, Hidden Leaf. I don't know why it's fire and leaf. That's not a good combo. But the Hidden Stone wasn't trying to take over the Hidden Grass. I mean, they were trying to take over the Hidden Grass, but they were invading the Hidden Grass strictly to own the Hidden Grass. The Hidden Stone wanted to use the Hidden Grass as a way to attack Konoha. Think of the Hidden Grass like a forward operating base for the Hidden Stone. What's truly odd to me, though, is that Konoha wasn't the Hidden Stone's only enemy. The Hidden Stone was also in multiple skirmishes with the Hidden Cloud, which feels like a bad idea to me because if there's one village that's almost as strong as Konoha, it's probably the Hidden Cloud, especially during the Third Great Ninja War when both Minato A and B were all active. But what's even weirder is the distance between the Land of Earth and the Land of Lightning. Essentially, 4 smaller villages dot the northern side of Konoha. And these 4 smaller villages are what separates the Hidden Stone from the Hidden Cloud. I theorize that the Hidden Cloud and the Hidden Stone were fighting because they were both looking for a way into Konoha. Obviously, the Hidden Stone wasn't only going to try to attack through the Grass Village. So while trying to find an advantage from the northern side of Konoha, that's when they bumped into the Hidden Cloud, who was also looking for an advantage through the northern side of Konoha. And since it was all out war, they just started boxing. And this boxing actually probably wasn't the best idea for the Hidden Cloud, because one, they were already fighting Konoha, who was probably their strongest enemy, so they didn't need an additional enemy, but two, because they underestimated how many shinobi the Hidden Stone had. Because of this, the Hidden Cloud ran into a situation where a lot of their shinobi were seriously outmatched by 10,000 Hidden Stone shinobi. That's an eighth of the shinobi of the allied forces, coming from just one village. And the wildest part is this wasn't even all of the Stone's shinobi, because they were still fighting in the grass village at this point. So the Hidden Cloud shinobi, not having 10,000 shinobi, had to retreat. Only problem is, if you retreat, they're just gonna slowly pick you off. So somebody had to stay behind to hold off these 10,000 shinobi and cover the retreat. Enter one of my favorite people in the entirety of Naruto, the third Raikage. On the northern border of Konoha, for 3 days and 3 nights, the third Raikage fended off 10,000 Hidden Stone shinobi by himself. This is like what Madara did in the beginning of the Fourth Great Ninja War, but for what, 14 times longer? The reason the third Raikage was able to fight this many shinobi for this long is because he was considered the perfect shield. He had mastered a lightning shield that made him basically invulnerable to all physical attacks and ninjutsu. Not to mention, with his lightning spear, which allowed him to pierce through groups of people at once, he was the perfect sword and shield combination. Combine that with the fact that he regularly had to fight Gyuki every time he raged out of Blue Bee, the Jinchuriki, before Killer Bee. He had as much battle prowess as anybody in the history of Naruto. And for 72 hours straight, he fought and killed Hidden Stone shinobi until eventually he was pierced. We don't know if he died of chakra depletion or if he just wasn't able to sustain his lightning cloak for any longer and died due to injuries. That is still the coolest feat in Naruto history in my mind. The Hidden Stone wasn't quite done taking L's yet. On their other front, in the grass village, they were fighting with Konoha. And it was on this front that one of the most important events in the entirety of Naruto occurred. The mission to destroy Shinobi Bridge. You see, Shinobi Bridge is a bridge in the grass village, a bridge that connects the Hidden Stone to the grass village, and therefore is the bridge that the Hidden Stone was using to funnel troops and resources into the hidden grass to attempt to attack Konoha from that side. So in order to starve out the Hidden Stone shinobi in the grass village, or even just stop backup from arriving, Konoha's primary mission was to destroy that bridge. So they sent Genin.
Oh, but one of them was Kakashi.
Still children, who didn't even have their team leader because Minato was fighting on the front lines against said Hidden Stone shinobi. Technically, to be more accurate here, a shinobi force from Konoha was sent to destroy Shinobi Bridge. But on their way to get to Shinobi Bridge, they encountered Hidden Stone forces, specifically about 50 Hidden Stone shinobi. And there was maybe 12 Konoha ninja. So these Konoha ninja pretty much got wiped out until there was only 4 of them left. It was at this point that Minato and his team were dispatched to destroy Shinobi Bridge. Minato quickly rushed to the site of the battle where the Konoha ninja were being pinned down by the Hidden Stone forces, and Rin, Kakashi, and Obito went to go destroy the bridge. It's at this point that Minato literally solos the 50 Hidden Stone shinobi, well, at least it's heavily implied he does, and Obito, Rin, and Kakashi go to have a good rest of their day. You know, maybe play a little rock, paper, scissors. But for real though, at this point, Minato had already had his run on site order that was specifically given by the Hidden Stone. See, this is one of the misconceptions about Minato. It's that he had a run on site order from everywhere, but it was actually only the Hidden Stone who said, if you see him, turn around, which apparently they didn't have time to do because, I'll reiterate, he just wiped all 50 of the shinobi that were pinning down the 4 from Konoha. And using this, I guess, massacre as the distraction, Obito, Rin, and Kakashi are able to destroy Shinobi Bridge, but not without losses. After coming up against Hidden Stone real shinobi, because these were children fighting a war, Obito is crushed by a rock after saving Kakashi and Rin, and presumed dead. And it's at this point that Kakashi gets his Sharingan, which he learns to use very quickly. I mean, yes, he's a very talented ninja, always has been, but it was during the Third Great Ninja War that Kakashi earned his Copy Ninja title. And we're like already halfway through the Third Great Shinobi World War when the Shinobi Bridge was destroyed. So in like 1 or 2 years, Kakashi was able to get such notoriety with his eye that his name was known around the world. He must have been killing a lot of people. However, it was after Shinobi Bridge was destroyed that things started to swing in favor of Konoha. With one of the largest military mights now cut off from resources, the grass village was no longer a viable option for the Hidden Stone. And they were getting their ass kicked by the Hidden Cloud on the northern border, so the Hidden Stone really wasn't an issue for Konoha anymore. 1 nation down, 2 to go. We know that the Hidden Cloud and Konoha fought because Minato ended up in a battle against and B. A being the future 4th Raikage. These are the 2 fastest people on Earth outside of Minato, and he easily beat them. Like, alone. Yeah, like Minato's squad was there, but he was like, I got this. And just took on a Haikage level threat and a Jinchuriki. So built different, it's insane. But losing the 3rd Raikage and needing to retreat all the way back to the Hidden Cloud, and also Minato pulling up on your 2 strongest fighters and beating them handedly, kind of sent the Hidden Cloud back to their village with the tail between their legs. And because of that, they also kind of pulled out of the war, which left Konoha with 1 village to go. They're just literally going down the line. Geographically, they're going in a line. It goes Hidden Stone, Hidden Cloud, Hidden Water. Hidden Water was Konoha's last enemy in the 3rd Great Shinobi World War, and arguably their most fierce. Yes, the Hidden Water does not have the kind of fighting power that the Hidden Stone does, but what they do have is a cutthroat mentality. The Hidden Mist did what the Hidden Stone did, but a little bit better. What do I mean by that? Well, they abducted Rin too. And while the Hidden Stone abducted Rin, and then the 2 shinobi that did it just died, and I guess they did take Obito with them, the Hidden Mist slapped Isobu into Rin. Isobu, for those who don't know, is the 3-tails tailed beast. He's the turtle one with the weird shell and the tails. I don't really understand what he's supposed to be. There's so many things with tails, and yet we chose a turtle. And the Mist had a really good idea, actually. They were going to release Rin, i.e. let her get taken back by the Hidden Leaf Shinobi, and then chase the Hidden Leaf Shinobi all the way back to Konoha. Oh no, come back. How are you guys so fast forgetting? And then once the Hidden Leaf Shinobi, Rin, and Kakashi are all the way back in Konoha, they would release Isobu. See, this is where the plan gets a bit hazy to me. Did they put some kind of remote activated seal on Rin? How do you just release Isobu from a Jinchuriki you don't have your hands on? Like, I get it, if you get your hands on Naruto and he's sedated or something, you can unlock the 8 trigram seal on his belly and then boom, Kurama. But if Rin's back in the village, how are you releasing Isobu from her? Also, like, Konoha could just extra seal the seal you put on her. I don't know what their plan was. It was a good plan, sort of, if they knew how to do it. Unfortunately, Kakashi had other plans. Technically, Rin had other plans. See, Rin knew she was being used as a Trojan horse, so she told Kakashi to kill her. That's right, wasn't Kakashi's choice, it was Rin's. Kind of makes Obito's whole shtick kind of annoying, right? But since we're talking about Obito got released by Madara at the perfect time and brought to this area by Zetsu in order to see Kakashi murder Rin. And then boom, both Kakashi and Obito awaken their MSs. Kakashi passes out from the stress, and Obito goes on to murder all of the Hidden Mist Shinobi around Kakashi and Rin's dead body. But the fact that Isobu was in Rin gives us a hint as to who was in charge of the Hidden Mist at this time. In fact, this is the perfect time to talk about who was responsible for this war. Since we know that Yagura was the 4th Mizukage and the Jinchuriki of Isobu and wasn't Mizukage until he was Jinchuriki, it's safe to assume the 3rd Mizukage was in charge during this war, which makes sense because the 3rd Mizukage is largely attributed for beginning the era of the Blood Mist Village. We can also make this assumption because we are relatively sure that Gengetsu, the 2nd Mizukage, died in the 1st Great Shinobi World War. We know this because he assumed Tobirama was the person who brought them back during the 4th Great Shinobi World War, which assumes he died before Tobirama. And we know Tobirama died in the 1st Great Shinobi World War, and we know that Gengetsu and Mu killed each other, so we know they were all dead in the 1st Great Shinobi World War. So yeah, 3rd Mizukage. But why am I calling him the 3rd Mizukage? Well, that's because we don't know his name or really anything about him. We know he was the guy protecting the 1st Mizukage in the first 5 Kage Summit. That's it. We know the 3rd Raikage was the person who entered the cloud into the war, even though he died. We know Hiruzen was in charge of Konoha for obvious reasons. We also know Inoki was in charge because, like I said earlier, Mu's already dead in the 1st Great Shinobi World War, and Inoki came after him, and he was still Tsuchikage in the 4th Great Shinobi World War, so you do the math. And in the Hidden Sand, since we knew that Sasori got his name, Sasori of the Red Sand, during the 3rd Great Shinobi World War, we know he was fighting in the 3rd Great Shinobi World War, and therefore the Hidden Sand was involved, but also that he was still with the Hidden Sand. That's key because it means the 3rd Kazekage was still alive. Because after Sasori defects from the village, he kills the 3rd Kazekage and then makes him into a puppet. So another nameless Kage is in charge. Something about the 3rd generation. Kishimoto was like, what if we didn't name any of them? What's funny is the 3rd Mizukage and the 3rd Kazekage kind of look related, but I'm off on a tangent. tangent. Let's get back to the Mist Village. With their plan to send Rin into downtown Konoha and activate her and turn her into Sobu failing, they were kind of out of ideas. And they had just had an entire platoon of very talented ninjas get wiped off the face of the earth by a 13-year-old with anger issues, Obito. So just like that, Konoha is 3 for 3. I know I mentioned earlier that the Hidden Sand was involved in this war. We just don't know in what capacity. Geographically, it stands to reason that it was either Konoha or the Hidden Stone, but it also could have been the smaller villages around their border. I mean, look at a second at Sasori's nickname. Sasori of the Red Sand, implying largely that he was fighting on sandy areas, which means, to me at least, that they were most likely fighting defensive battles. If the Land of Wind had pushed into the Land of Earth, he wouldn't be fighting on sand. The same thing with Konoha. So it's a possibility that the Hidden Stone pushed into the Land of Wind, or that the smaller villages were having skirmishes with the Land of Wind during the Third Great Shinobi World War. But that's an assumption. So the war came to a close once the Hidden Stone and Konoha signed an armistice. An armistice that Inoki, the current Tsuchikage, was actually very reluctant to sign. See, I know I said the Hidden Mist were Konoha's last opponents, but they weren't really. They were just Konoha's last serious opponent. I say that because as a last-ditch effort, Hidden Stone tried to send 1,000 shinobi into Konoha. So you know what Minato did? He went out and met this force of 1,000 shinobi and defeated them all alone. So yeah, at that point, Inoki was like, okay, peace sounds good. Unfortunately, this moment is technically filler, but I mean, how could you take this feat from Minato? But with the war over, what were the effects of said war? Well, during the war, Madara died and prepped Obito for his resurrection. Ao defeated a Hyuga, and I've covered the possibilities of what that Hyuga was doing by himself in this video right here, and obtained a Byakugan that he would later use to find out that Mifune, the leader of the samurai, was under Kodo Matsukame from Danzo. And the Battle of Kikyo Pass occurred during this war, which orphaned Kabuto. But there was much bigger things politically that were happening in the Leaf because of the end of the war. Hiruzen was looking for a state of reconciliation from Konoha in order to forgive Iwa. Iwa is the Hidden Stone. Essentially, Hiruzen wasn't looking for any payment from Iwa for all of the damage they had done by starting this war. It was the ultimate in acts of forgiveness. However, there was a group of people in Konoha who were very pro-war. These people were led by Danzo, and they saw this decision by Hiruzen as very weak. So in order to make sure that nobody would launch Konoha back into a war, Hiruzen actually took the blame of the war onto himself and stepped down as Hokage, which left a hole in the Hokage spot. This is where the drama gets a bit spicy, because there was a lot of people during the Third Great Shinobi World War who had obtained massive amounts of credit and fame. The 3 Sannin were obviously very important in the war, but then again, so was Minato and his team. But Tsunade at this point had left the village, and Jiraiya did not want to be Hokage, which left Minato and Orochimaru as the only candidates that were being considered as the Hokage. This was a problem though, because there was somebody else who had also put their life on the line during the Third Great Shinobi World War and done a massive amount of good for the village. Fugaku Uchiha, Sasuke's dad, but he wasn't even considered. And once the village concurred that Orochimaru was a bit too creepy to be Hokage, Minato became the 4th Hokage. But it was this election of Minato in the non-consideration of Fugaku that started the Uchihas down the path of planning the coup. But something more important than even all of that happened in the aftermath of this war. Obviously, after the Second Great Shinobi World War, Jiraiya adopted the Ame Orphans. The Ame Orphans would then go to create the Akatsuki, which at the time was just a group of them in Shinobi preaching for peace in the Hidden Rain. In fact, they were going to meet Hanzo in order to speak how to reach peace in the Hidden Rain when Danzo got his little grubby fingers in the mix. You see, Danzo was trying to disrupt the ceasefire between the Hidden Stone and Konoha. He was, after all, the person looking for reparations from the Hidden Stone the most. He's incredibly pro-war. But the Akatsuki unknowingly spoiled this. Essentially, Danzo was trying to make it look like Konoha ninjas had been murdered by ninjas from Iwa in the Hidden Rain. But since the Akatsuki stumbled upon this, Danzo simply made it look like the Akatsuki had murdered his men. And this made Hanzo afraid of the Akatsuki, fearing they were trying to take his power. And so Hanzo worked with Danzo in order to kidnap Konan to make sure that Nagato would murder Yahiko. Yahiko, not wanting Nagato to deal with murdering him, just throws himself onto the kunai that Yahiko's holding. And oh boy, Nagato does not like that. He goes on to murder everybody involved except for Hanzo and Danzo, who managed to escape. And this makes Nagato the head of the Akatsuki, who changed their stance from peace in the Hidden Rain a bit. Nagato then goes on to murder Hanzo, but That's way down the line. And that's it. That's the Third Great Shinobi World War, how it started, who was responsible, the fallout of it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, please, for me, like the video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell, baby. And if you're feeling particularly edutained, go ahead and hit that join button for me and become a member of the Weeb Alliance over here on YouTube. You'll be getting access to 3 additional videos a month from yours truly, access to badges, emotes, and even member shoutouts at the end of the video. But if you're not in a financial situation to support right now, just remember I appreciate you being right here. I'm not saying I want Kakashi to struggle, I don't, but how are you gonna learn to use an eye you slapped into your face a day ago?